In the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You're welcome. Good to see you all with us here tonight. We need to start with a roll call. Ms. Harris, will you help us with that?
Sure. Councilmember Hageman is excused, but we do have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you. We have an agenda before us. Is there any changes or corrections? Or if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Mr. Welling, is there a second?
I'll second.
Sellers seconding. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? We have an agenda. We have the council minutes for September 17th. Any concerns with those minutes? If not, we will acknowledge those as they've been prepared, and we'll go to the work session of September 24. Any concerns with those minutes? If not, we'll acknowledge those as well, and we'll go on to the bills. Questions, comments, concerns?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
We have a motion. Mr. Lynch.
I'll second it, Your Honor.
Mr. Perks seconding. Any discussion? Discussion?
Smaller amount, that's good to see.
It is good to see.
If you call that a small amount, but yeah.
You know, compared to
I
last
think compared to
time.
last time. Yeah. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That takes care of that. Council comments. Mr. Lynch, what's on your mind tonight, sir?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Lynch.
I want to say congratulations again to the girls' state champion golf team from last couple weeks ago. And my son, who's a state champion.
Congratulations.
Brag on him a minute. He's done pretty awesome. And our football team won homecoming against Green River. So we've had some good things going on with the kids.
Excellent.
And volleyball swept Star Valley and Jackson.
And volleyball's playing well too.
There we go. There we go. Excellent. Mr. Perks.
I can't top that, so I have nothing.
Mr. Welling.
I don't think I just congratulations to the golf team. That's pretty remarkable, and to Jesse's son. I think he won by how many strokes?
7.
7. That's incredible. That's incredible for 4A, right?
Headed off to Wyoming, support the Cowboys. So
Absolutely. Fantastic. Tell him congratulations. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Mr. Sellers.
Just want to remind everybody that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and to be mindful of those things. And all the ladies out there, men can get breast cancer too. It's not as common, but it can happen. So just mind your health and stay healthy.
Excellent, thank you. I got a couple of things that I thought maybe I could just visit with and get your ideas on anyway. A few years back, I believe it was 2018, we did a salary study. Just for the members of the council, we did a salary study, and we evaluated at that time what our salaries across the across the board were as far as the city employees. And I'm kind of wondering if we don't need to renew that or review that a little bit and to make sure that we're on track as far as that, just to get your thoughts on that. If you're, I don't know that we need a motion or anything like that, just to see if everybody's comfortable with pursuing that study and see where that goes.
My opinion is it really helped reduce our turnover when we did that study and brought people up to where they should have been. They quit leaving us to go out into the private sector. So we've got a good bunch of people who works for the city, and I would not be opposed to doing the study again.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on that?
I think it's a great idea.
I think we're seeing what's happening on the East Coast with the longshoremen and stuff, the strikes and stuff. I think people are feeling a lot of pressure financially, and I think it's important that we stay up to date and current. So I think the only way to do that legitimately is to take the time and take a look, because I know I was talking to a gal who's a teacher the other day, and Wyoming at one time was higher than anybody around for teaching. Now they're not, and they came, her and her husband came as teachers to teach in Wyoming. Now they're looking, they love it here, and they're going, we might need to move. So I think we have the same in the city too, so I think it'd be a good thing.
Okay, well, we'll probably look into that, and we'll probably have some decisions to make down the road at some point.
When they did that study, was it across the board? Because I know when we've done raises before, it's kind of been across the board. Do we look at each department to say, like, hey, this one might be on track, this one's higher, this one's lower?
Yeah, the
Instead
study,
of just across the board flat?
the study evaluated every single city employee and every position, and
Each individual.
each individual, and there was an increase in salary across the board. They weren't all the same percentages, the same, same amounts, but everybody was
Kind of got everybody where they needed to be.
everybody was, evaluated every single position.
Do we have a specific, I guess, is this going to be a work session type thing?
Well, I think once we get it back, if
company that
we
did it.
just commission them to do the study, they'll do that and get us back, and then we can figure out how we want to respond to it.
Okay, so we have a specific entity that does that, or are we going to?
What's the name of Condrey? Condrey's who did it, and they did a great job last time.
Last time they did it, and they all traveled out here. There was probably 4 of them. This time, because it's just an update, they'll do it virtually, so they don't have to come. So it's way less money than it was the first time.
That was my next question, is what kind of money we're spending on it?
Do we have a cost on it?
27.5.
No, it's like, we had to buy it for the county, they could use it too.
Yes, they could. Now that you mention it.
So what we thought, Mr. Mayor, is to let everybody know that that's out there, and then possibly bring that for action in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you'll see that.
Yes, I mean, that's probably a fairly reasonable rate. I've
Yeah.
seen
Oh, yeah.
studies and all that other stuff that look a lot higher than that, so I guess it's not too bad.
So that'll be coming down the road. Just thought I'd put the information out there for the council and see where it goes, and we'll have that discussion and that decision here before very long. Other than that, I want the Public Works to know that I'm thinking about them, and you guys are in my thoughts and prayers. I know it was a tough day out at Public Works today, and just know that we're thinking about you. Appreciate what you guys do. We will go to our public hearings and special orders. We'll start there with a public hearing regarding the lease of property.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Harris, please.
This matter involves a public hearing regarding a proposed sale of City of Evanston property to AGN LLC pursuant to Wyoming Statute 15-1-112 BID. The purpose of the matter before the council this evening is to consider public input regarding the proposed sale of property located in Section 16, Township 15 North, Range 120 west of the 6th Principal Meridian in Uintah County, Wyoming. It is proposed that AGN enter a real estate lease with an option to purchase the property. The appraised value of the real property is $420,000. Purchase price for the real property, if the option is exercised after 60 months, is $340,000, or $280,000 if the option is exercised after 120 months. The hearing is to provide information so the governing body can determine whether the use of the property as proposed by AGN LLC will benefit the economic development of the municipality pursuant to the statute that I mentioned. I will submit for the record a notice of public hearing regarding sale of property, which has been published once a week for 3 consecutive weeks in the Uintah County Herald, stating the purpose of and date and time of the hearing. The Community Development Director, Mr. O'Neill, will present information regarding the proposal, and Mr. Osborne, Conrad Osborne, will present information to the council regarding the proposal as well. Mr. O'Neill and Mr. Osborne will also address questions from the council regarding the proposal. After the presentation, any interested member of the public may provide input to the council regarding the sale. After public input has been taken, the hearing will be concluded, and at a later point in the agenda, a resolution will be considered regarding the proposal. Mr. O'Neill, would you like to address the council, sir?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Rocco O'Neill, City of Evanston Community Development Department. I'm just going to run through a general overview of the lease with option, what property we're talking about, a little bit of history of the property and the future use should the lease be approved this afternoon. So the property locally is known as the Sunset Cabins property on Bear River Drive. It's 4.67 acres right next to Hamblin Park. Here are some photos from Google to give you an idea. I'm sure most folks are familiar with the property. A little bit of history. The city acquired that parcel of land in 1995 for local historic preservation efforts. Since 95, it's been used as snow storage and fairgrounds parking. AGN's proposed use is as a local nursery and landscaping business. AGN has outgrown their current leased properties and has a desire to expand their product offerings in Evanston and consolidating those lots into one area. Bear River Drive is a target area for the city for beautification and enhancement. It has been since our 2010 comprehensive plan. I know that this property is one of the more blighted areas on Bear River Drive, and so this lease with option to purchase could potentially remedy that. And AGN will significantly improve the appearance of the lot and generate additional commerce in that area of town. Here are some highlights of the lease. Mr. Harris ran through them, but quickly again, 60-month lease with option to extend an additional 180 months. Monthly lease rate's $1,000 a month. Option to purchase after 60 months, $340, less taxes and improvement costs. Option after 120 months, $280, less property taxes and improvement costs. And the lease will commence November 1. Mr. Conrad, do you want to speak? Okay. Perfect. Smart man.
Don't be nervous.
I know you refer to him as AGN, but if you want to give him the full name, I think other people are more familiar with Aspen Grove Nursery.
Yeah, Aspen Grove Nursery.
Just
Excellent.
Is there anyone else present who wishes to provide input to the council regarding this proposed lease and option? Is there anyone else present? There being none, the hearing...
Wait, is the council not going to ask any questions?
We'll get to that after everybody testifies.
Well, I thought public is after the questions from the council.
You have any questions?
I have no questions so far. No?
we do get it.
Now, this is the public hearing.
Yes,
without hearing anything.
anyone who wishes to testify, go ahead and state your name and address and provide your comments.
I'm not here to testify to anything, gentlemen and ladies, but we moved here in 1984.
Sir, what's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Steve James, residing at 224 Rimrock Drive, Evanston, Wyoming, since 1983. Okay. All right, so we moved here in 83. And almost every day I drove by that property and admired the historical value of it as I learned more about the Lincoln Highway and the motor car development coming west on the Lincoln Highway and seeing people have to camp and stay in places. I thought, wow, what a cool place to have. I am not speaking against Aspen Grove Nursery perhaps utilizing the property. What I really would like to see, at the very least, the facade of the remaining building stay intact for the historical value and the beautification. I think that by doing that, it would benefit, who is Mr. Conrad Osborne? Okay, I believe it would benefit your business by keeping that. It would certainly be a draw. It would certainly add to the tourism aspect even of a nursery business to keep that there. I did take a look at the lease agreement. I did not see any provision denying the ability to demo the property, the existing building. Is that true? That they're within this lease agreement, they could demo it on day one?
Mr. Mayor, to answer that question, Mr. James, that is correct.
Okay. So I just want to encourage the consideration of putting a little bit of guardrail around it, at least until it can be determined that it's absolutely necessary or absolutely the best idea for the beautification of that. I've always wished that the city had wanted to expand Hamlin Park and kind of clean that up and landscape it a little bit. Additionally, the neighboring ex-Texaco gas station property, which is now a dumping yard for construction materials. So I'm all in favor of Aspen Grove Nursery bringing in nursery stock and showing a nice front for that property. I think it would, it'd help distinguish between the industrial / commercial side of the street and the city side, including residences, fairgrounds, city park, the best looking park in the town. I do have a couple of questions about the lease agreement. At $1,000 a month, for the first term, that'll be $60,000. And I did note that it's not up there anymore, but it appears that we're going to forgive on the purchase price taxes paid, property taxes paid. Is that?
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Do I understand that correctly?
I'm going to let Mr. O'Neill talk about the rent and how that is considered in the ultimate option price. But I'm going to answer two of your questions with the purchase price. The purchase price in the option is reduced. That 340, for example, is reduced.
Yes.
Well, first off, it does consider the rental of $1,000 a month.
Right. That's a no-brainer to me.
The second thing is that the purchase price is deviated downward, so that 340 is taken downward for the amount of property taxes that property generates, because it is not on the tax rolls. So we're going to subject that property to property taxes. Therefore, if the property is improved, the property taxes are going to be more. That will be an incentive to the lessee to exercise the option and get a credit against that portion of the property.
Okay, so who's going to pay the property tax during the lease?
The lessee.
Oh, okay, so if the lessee, I'm sorry, did you say he can?
Aspen Grove Nursery pays the taxes.
Okay, we'll pay the property tax.
Yes.
Now that's a standard thing. We all own property here and we all pay taxes, right?
Right.
Okay, but when we buy property, the seller doesn't knock down the price because he paid his property tax.
Well,
We
normally,
haven't paid any because it's not taxed.
Well, normally when you lease a place, you're not the one paying the property tax, the person that owns it.
I see. Thank you. Thank you. That explains that.
And
Okay.
Councilmember Lindy, you are correct. Now, to answer your second question about
The $20,000 difference. there.
improvements, the improvements.
Well,
In negotiating this lease purchase with Mr. Osborne and AGN, what staff did is try to incentivize those improvements that are there. So just call them the cabins. There is a credit possible for up to $10,000 against the purchase price if those structures are removed only because they are considered to be a dangerous and abandoned building under the International Building Code. So if they're determined by the city or building inspector, building department, to be dangerous and abandoned, as we would any other building, then there's a potential credit for up to $10,000 if they are demoed for that reason only. If they're demoed for any other reason, there's no credit. So there's a little bit of incentive there so that the lessee, if it so chooses, can use them if they're usable for that purpose. So I tried to answer to your question.
so if we take 420, the appraised value, minus 60, that drops us down to 360. But you've offered it at 340, minus property tax, minus 10,000 demo.
Correct.
Why was it dropped from 360 to 340?
Because you have to capitalize the rental payments at $1,000 a month. Is that right, Rucko?
So there's reasons in a lease agreement. Okay. The other thing is, would you mind telling me who approached who about the idea? If anybody knows. Did Aspen Groves Nursery?
Just a minute. You want to?
Go ahead, Ron.
AGN did approach the city with the idea.
With the idea of purchasing it?
Initially started with the purchase, and then after some negotiation and discussion, it evolved into a lease.
Okay. Is it my understanding that if the city were to sell property, it would actually have to go out on a bid or auction basis if they were to sell it directly, but this lease is a work around that requirement?
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
That is not correct.
Okay.
The city can sell property, real property, land, 3 different ways.
Okay.
Public bid, public auction, or a sale for economic development purposes. So we are using the third, and we are advertising it now as a sale because it has an option in there. The option doesn't have to be exercised by the lessee.
Correct.
So we're advertising that now so that future councils 5 years, 10 years from now will already have that hearing conducted and
Okay.
that determination made.
Okay, great. And just to repeat, I hope the business succeeds. I really do. And I hope that all the landscape material and everything just makes it look gorgeous there. We've used Aspen Grove Nursery in the past and would continue to do so. But what happens if it doesn't during the lease term? What happens if there's a catastrophic failure and they have to just back out of the lease? What provision is there for cleanup? I understand from the lease agreement that any improvements that have been made, for example, if they set up a building, they have to leave it.
Any improvements made, Mr. Mayor, any improvements made to the properties in the term of the lease, if the option is not exercised and the lease is terminated, become the property of the city.
Right, okay, and it just resides there.
Yeah.
And then what is to control on a lease thing like this? What controls are there in how the property is developed by the lessee?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, any improvements to the property must be approved by the city before they're made.
Okay, so it'd be
plans-
like a plan and then a building permit issued and so forth.
That is correct.
Okay. So I would just encourage that, let's say it can't let's say that is the worst case, my worst case scenario is nothing of the building can be saved, not even the front, and then utilized just as just the front of something that draws people there as partially historical. It would be great if it didn't look like across the street. You know, more semi-industrial commercial, you know, right up against the park. You know, if it didn't look like that, and hopefully that it wouldn't look like the ex-Texaco station does today. Thank you.
Anyone else present wish to testify? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Marianne Ayers, do you need address? 525 Main Street. I hadn't planned to speak about any of this, but I myself have a problem with how this came to my attention. I read the newspaper every week. I even read the notices in the paper. The notices that are required to be put in the newspaper regarding the sale or the lease of this property was in there. I had no idea what they were talking about, what that notice in the paper was referring to. I could not refer to the map things that were in there. I did not know that AGN was the nursery. That would be, and it even says here in today's order, AGN LLC, a Wyoming limited liability company, and then in parentheses you put AGN again. Why can't you put that it's the nursery? What's the name of the real nursery? The AGN nursery, what is it? The Aspen Grove Nursery. I had no idea this was Aspen Grove Nurseries was buying it. I had no idea where the site was. I came down here to the city to ask about it. Where is in the notice? And I'm only asking that in your city notices, can you not put an address or a name? I think this is not very transparent. It's coming, because more is coming to light to me what's happening. There's never been a sale, any signs up there saying for sale or for lease that I know of. Maybe there have been, but I didn't notice them. But I'm concerned with the transparency of these kinds of things happening here. I've been here coming to this city for 50 years, and I'm leaving it very soon, just because of this kind of transparency.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the statute that I referred to earlier is a statute that requires, in the notice that was published in the paper, for the property to be described. That means it is listed as a legal description. That's what we do. And in the only other sale that I've been involved with the Peak out on Union Road, you'll recall that was a description by a lot and block in the Union Edition second. So the statute says you describe it. That description is a legal description. We certainly, if there's a street address, we can put that in. But we advertise it as the statute requires by description, which is a legal description.
My concern is that if you've got the statute, but can you not add anything afterwards that in the paper or anything to let the people know what is going on? When did you find out it was going on? I actually had to, and I didn't even know it was the nursery, even after I went down to the city. I just wanted to know where the hell it was, because I can't tell by the information that is put in that statute. So you're just doing what you have to. You're not trying to communicate with the people or let the people know what's going on.
Anyone else present wish to testify concerning the public sale or the public hearings? There's no further testimony. Any further questions from the council?
I have none. Anybody else?
I guess my questions would be for Conrad. Is this the time to do it, or is it later?
Conrad, do you want to come up and answer? What?
I guess this would be, I have questions for Conrad, but others,
Yeah.
is this the best time to do it?
Yes.
Okay. I guess, do you have any kind of site plan set up, or are you in the beginnings of?
Just the beginnings.
Just the beginnings?
Yeah, I've driven through a number of times looking at things, but I haven't walked over to guess enough solidly to really start putting pencil to paper, things like that. I know at the moment I would like to, the back right side of the building, there's a grove of trees in there. I'd like to clean that up, and then that's where we would heal in our trees. At the moment, the front portion of it has a bit of crumbling asphalt. I'd like to use that for our bulk storage, so boulders, topsoil, rock, bark, things like that, so we could put our bins on there and keep the material clean, and then eventually move that stuff to the back side of where the current building and facade is, and then decorate more of the front, keep our plants, our greenhouse, things like that towards the front.
Do you have any kind of plans of trying to save those buildings if you can?
I think it would be fantastic if there's something that can be done, but I don't have any plans yet. I like the idea of trying to save the facade, if we can use it as a decoration or something like that, but I don't have plans yet.
Kind of play on the marketing of, you know, the old highway, that kind of stuff?
I think that would be intelligent.
Okay.
That would be my comment. If you could save that facade, I think you could really build a really neat nursery around that if you could do it. So I just, because when I saw it coming up and stuff, I drove by and I looked at it. I've been driving it since I can remember, as we'd come through Evanston, and I think I've always just thought they were cool as well. So if we could, there's something you could do, I think you could really tie it into, as a business owner, I always look for ways I can tie what's there and not recreate. So if you can do it in a way you can actually save money, that might be good.
Absolutely.
Any further questions for Mr. Osborne?
Just a statement. Yeah, the Sunset cabins, they've got some history and everything. But if you're leasing and buying the property, I understand you got to do what you got to do. But I can't in my wildest dreams see where you could make that property look any worse than it does right now.
Appreciate that.
So, good luck.
Agreed.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great fit. I'm not going to, you know, I didn't hear about it until yesterday. So
I think it's a perfect fit for down there.
Any further questions for Mr. Osborne?
I have none.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any further questions for anybody from the council? Any further questions?
Seems so.
That being, the hearing in this matter will be closed then and concluded.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. We'll now go to another public hearing regarding the application for a microbrewery permit from Shades of Pale, Inc.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this was a public hearing that was set for an application for a microbrewery permit from Shades of Pale, Inc. The application was submitted to the clerk. The clerk then commenced the publication for a hearing to issue the microbrewery permit, as is required under state law and our code, or city code. After the advertisement was put in the paper and advertised for the specific amount of time, last week, the Department of, or the Wyoming Liquor Division, the Department of Revenue, made comments on the application. This, of course, applies to Section 4 of the Roundhouse. The Wyoming Liquor Division had 4 comments. 3 of them related to the lease that this current council approved, I believe, in January or February of 23. I remember the lease with Shades of Pale.
Okay.
That lease, the Liquor Division went through the lease because it received a copy and noted the lease didn't have a street address for Section 4 of the Roundhouse. So it wants a street address inserted in the lease. The second thing that it noted, was that there's no commencement date for the lease stated in the lease. So in other words, it doesn't say this lease starts X date. The lease does have a commencement date, and it commences when the city determines that the Gray Shale improvements are finally complete. We anticipate that will be ready November 1. So we're less than a month on that. Well, a month right at it. So we've got a certificate of completion we can have to start a commencement date. The third thing they noticed is this: when you lease property that is going to house a liquor license of any type, you have to have in the lease that there's permission of the lessee to sell alcohol or malt beverages. The lease specifically says it's for a micro. And so I kind of looked and said, well, what? Yeah, but they specifically want to say Shades can sell alcohol and malt beverages on this property, on this lease. So we got them in the lease. But we'd already advertised for the hearing. So what staff would like you to do is to table the hearing and any action on this until the 15th, when we can have that lease come back to you for amendment. And the only other thing they wanted was for Shades of Pale to be authorized to do business by the Wyoming Secretary of State, because it's a Utah corporation. So they've got to take care of that. I think Rocco said they were working on that today. So we're asking you to table both these action items.
This hearing and the motion to follow will
Yes.
table it. Okay, that makes sense.
So are they going to move their entity to Wyoming, or are they going to stay a Utah corporation?
They're working that out with the Secretary of State right now.
They're going to domesticate, they're going to at least get a foreign entity to do business in Wyoming, but their intent is to move their whole operations up here, physically.
Yeah. Okay.
They'll be authorized to do business in Wyoming.
In
Or
one form or fashion?
yeah, in one form or another, correct.
Okay.
Can we table both these in with one motion, or
Yes.
would you do them separately? I'd entertain a motion to table this public hearing as well as the motion to follow.
I'd like to make that motion to table the public hearing and the resolution to follow.
Sellers,
I'll second it.
Mr. Welling seconding. Any discussion?
What's the new address going to be?
1512?
1512 Main Street? Just curious. I didn't know if it was going to be like new street name or anything like that, or
No, it's just,
something cool like.
What it is. Any further discussion? If there is none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That is tabled until the 15th of October. We have no consent agenda item nor unfinished business, but we do have some new business. And our first item there is a discussion request by Invenergy for an extension of time to commence construction of the Uinta Wind project.
Hi, my name's Madison Robley. I'm here with Invenergy. I'm the developer of the Uinta Wind project. So I'm here today to discuss our industrial siding permit. But before I get into that, I'll just give you a quick overview of the project. You all may remember it from a few years ago. It's been in development for a couple years at this point. But we are getting close to construction. And so we're kind of bringing it back to public attention. So just some quick information. This is a proposed 120 megawatt wind project. It's located primarily on private land with a few parcels of state land, about 9 miles north of the city. We have received our county conditional use permit. We've also signed our county road use agreement, and all of our other permitting is in place. We have all the land fully leased for the project, so we're in sort of what's known as like late stage development. The project will provide a ton of benefits to the surrounding communities. So we anticipate paying approximately $25 million in property taxes over the life of the project. We're also anticipating around $13 million through the Wyoming Wind Energy Production Tax, which is the $1 per megawatt hour tax. We're also paying through local landowners with our leases. And then through our industrial siding permit, we will be paying $385,000 to the affected communities during the construction. Ultimately, the project will power around 38,000 homes. That's sort of what 120 megawatts means in real life. and our current construction schedule puts us starting construction in 2025 or 2026, and we anticipate being under construction for approximately 2 years with a sort of 5-month winter shutdown. It's pretty snowy up in the project area, so we do have to shut down for the winter, and then we'll operate for between 35 and 50 years. So, like I said, we have received our industrial siding permit. We got that a couple years ago, and that's run through the state DEQ. Through that permit, we were required to start construction by the end of this year. Because we've had some delays in signing a power offtake contract, we are not able to start construction this year, so we're requesting an amendment to our permit to extend our timeline. So for the sake of this permit, we aren't asking for approval from you all. This is all done through the state DEQ process, but I had reached out to Rocco for a letter of support for the project just due to its economic benefits for the region, and he asked if I could come and speak to you all today. So we will be presenting on this coming Thursday to the Industrial Siding Council, and that our amendment will, it's not a hearing, but because this is such a minimal impact through this amendment, but we are speaking to the council and they should be deciding on Thursday.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I think, Mayor, I think the clerk sent you out a letter that was proposed, and I've got it rewritten. We can put it on, if you approve that, we'll put it on city letterhead and you can sign it.
Okay.
But the council needed to be on board and know.
Sounds great. Any questions for Madison? Or
Yeah, we generally call that area Whitney Canyon. My question is, how many windmills are you going to put up there, and have you sold all your electricity through your contract? So it's pretty much a go now.
So good questions. We are planning for around 35 turbines. We have not executed the contracts that we need to sell the power yet. We anticipate executing them by the end of the year. Things can always happen, but that's our, we're working with a couple of different counterparties on those, and so that's our hope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How many people will this employ?
So our peak construction workforce should be around 140 people. That's sort of just during a few months of the construction term. Throughout the life of the construction, it should be, we're averaging around 50 people on the site per day.
Okay. How many permanent jobs once you've completed?
Around 7 full-time staff.
do we need a motion on that letter?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve this letter.
Make that motion.
Is that a motion, Mr. Lynch?
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve this support letter. Any discussion on the motion? If there is none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll get that signed and we'll get it to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for
Good
coming.
luck.
We'll go now to Resolution 2463. Mr. Harris, will you read that title for us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the Council, Resolution 2463 is a resolution of the City of Evanston, Wyoming, authorizing the execution of Amendment Number 2 to the Transportation Alternatives Program Subrecipient Agreement between the Wyoming Department of Transportation and the City of Evanston, Wyoming for the Evanston Roundhouse Trailhead Access Improvement Project.
Thank you. Mr. Newsom.
Mayor, members of the council, good evening. What's before you tonight is really just an extension to the current TAP grant that we have. It has been extended once in time. The reason for this extension isn't so much that the physical work isn't complete, but in an effort to get the closeout documents done, we need a little bit more time. There is a little lag in the light poles that were ordered. They're specialty light poles, and those may not get here till mid-December. So in an effort to allow the use of those funds Really, it's just an extension to the end of '25.
Excellent.
Do you anticipate any problem getting an extension?
No, YDOT's the one who actually initiated it to me, and so they're receptive to that. And like I say, they did it last year to get to the end of -- and now it's just to the end of '25, so all the closeout documents can be done.
Is there an introduction on this resolution?
I'll introduce with a motion to pass.
Mr. Wells?
I'll second it, Your Honor.
Mr. Perk seconding. Discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That's approved. Thank you. Resolution 2464. Mr. Harris, read that title for us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 2464, a resolution of the governing body of the City of Evanston, Wyoming, authorizing the execution of a lease with option purchase with AGN LLC, a Wyoming limited liability company, AGN, and determining the sale of real property to AGN pursuant to the lease option would benefit the economic development of the municipality as required by Wyoming Statute 15-1-112 BID.
This is a resolution in connection with our first public hearing tonight.
Correct, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions or comments, concern before we act on this?
I would say that I wish we'd had a little more time to look at it, besides the fact we did just get it yesterday. I think it's a great idea. I love it. I think it'll be fantastic. I do wish we'd had a little more time to look it over, but other than that, I think it's going to work well. I think it's going to be a great idea.
Okay. Is there an introduction on this resolution?
I'll introduce with the motion to pass.
Mr. Sellers with a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Lynch seconding. Discussion on the motion.
Good luck.
If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That's approved. Thank you. Good luck to you, and hope it's wildly successful. Now we need to have a discussion regarding Wyoming horse racing update and request for a letter of support.
That's your lot in life now, isn't it? Thank you. How are you, sir?
Great looking building.
The one in Cheyenne.
I'm doing good.
The one in Cheyenne is.
Thank you.
Caesars.
Mayor Williams and
Go ahead.
City Council and staff, my name is Pete Ligori, representing Wyoming Horse Racing. First, thank you for letting me talk to you this evening. Really two topics. One is we wanted to give you an update on our current touristic project here in Evanston. It's been a while since we've been in front of you, and some of you may have seen that we're starting to move dirt out at the site. Thought it was an appropriate time to kind of give you a more of a fulsome update and talk about the project. And second topic tonight was really thinking ahead in terms of what could happen if that project's successful. So just to take a step back, what we've distributed to you is really more of a refresher. One is the site plan that we've submitted as part of a bigger package to the city for permitting. And the second is, everybody likes to see fun drawings, so we've provided a rendering, at least the exterior. But I just wanted to take a step back for a moment. The city approved and granted us a letter of support for this initial project back in October of last year, so almost a year ago. And at that time, the initial building was thought to be roughly about 19,000 square feet and contain a few amenities. And over the last year, We've rethought and rethought, and the building has grown in size and added additional amenities as we've come along. And where we are today is the building's roughly about 26,000 square feet. We've obviously gone through the permitting process, the planning process, all of those approvals at this point. And, we're very eager and very excited that we're getting started. But I did want to talk about, it's been a while. During that time, we've purchased additional land next to our site and added it together, and we went through that discussion, I think, with you as part of the development agreement. So we tried to get a little bit more room for the project once we figured out we wanted to build a bigger building. We are under construction. There's grading going on right now, and our goal in the next coming months is to get all of the underground activity done as much as we can before the ground freezes for the winter. So we're really focused on underground utility work, the initial development of Prospector Drive in front of the property as part of our development agreement, the Phase 1 work, and also the foundation work. And we're also planning in the next 2 weeks of ordering steel for the project as well. I think it's wishful thinking to think we'll be under roof before winter hits, but at least we want to get the underground work done and maybe the steel erected and start to sheathe the building. The building's increased in size primarily because we made a decision that we wanted to keep the liquor store that was at Porter's. It was the original Porter's fireworks site. So we made the decision that we thought it would be important to continue to provide that amenity to the customers in the community, as well as new customers, hopefully coming from Utah. So with that added a little bit of space. We made the decision to run our own restaurant inside. So we've increased the restaurant size to about 85 seats. That was a much smaller venue. We also got a commitment from Dunkin' Donuts to actually put a full-service Dunkin' Donuts in the facility, which we're pretty excited about as well. So that added square footage. So all these things ended up adding more and more space. And of course, as the building has grown, the economic impact has also grown. And I just wanted to hit on a couple of highlights for you. The project originally was going to be a $15 million project for us. It's now turned into almost a $26 million project in terms of construction and all the equipment and everything else to get open. We were anticipating being able to provide tax payments of roughly about $540,000 a year to the city, similar amount to the county and similar amount to the state. That number has now grown to $1 million a year individually for the city, state, and county. And the number of jobs we're projecting to hire is now north of 100. We were in the 55, 65 range, so that has also grown, primarily because of us running our own restaurant and the addition of Dunkin' Donuts. And, the temporary construction jobs have also shot up from 120 to almost 200 during the construction phase. So generally speaking, as the building has grown, so has all the economic benefit that we expect to see. And trust me, I keep hearing in the back of my ears ringing when we had these earlier conversations about housing for workers. That's been in the back of my mind since we've had those initial conversations. So we're very focused on that, making sure we can provide great locations for our team members. You may remember that we were building a sister property in Cheyenne that we were calling this the baby sister, and as this project has now grown, it's now a sister to the property in Cheyenne. So if you want to get a sense of the look and feel of what that property will look like, if you're over in that neck of the woods, I would just encourage you to stop. It's on Route I-25, exit 4. And you'll see in the rendering we showed, I purposely picked that one because it shows the barrel roof and copper roof material. It's quite the statement. in Cheyenne, and we think it'll be really something spectacular here as well, driving on the highway. The success that we've seen in Cheyenne, we opened the property, I'll say the third week of June. It is exceeding all of our expectations, and the goal in Cheyenne was to attract Colorado guests. Over 80% of the business we're getting is from Colorado customers. It's fantastic in that regard. And in terms of the level of business, we're actually exceeding what our original estimates were. So we're already talking about potential expansions at that location. So that just gives us much more comfort about what we're doing here with the bigger building. We're really excited about that. And you may recall that we've talked about our philosophical, I guess, culture in terms of our company. We keep calling it Wyoming First. And we really talk about 4 tenets in that discussion. 1 is to hire Wyoming residents. 2 is to buy Wyoming. 3 is to support the local community in terms of philanthropic activities where we operate. And 4 is to support the agribusiness, the equine business. And we're doing that all over the state, which we're very excited about. But what we've seen specifically in our Swan Ranch project in Cheyenne is that all but 1 employee were Wyoming residents. So we were able to hire over 130 team members in Cheyenne. We have 1 Nebraskan. You would have thought it would have been coming up from Colorado, but we have 1 chef that's from Nebraska. And in terms of construction dollars, we were able to secure over 80% of the dollars from Wyoming vendors. So we're really focused on making sure we can do a repeat performance here. And, you know, so far, the grading, the utility vendors that we've identified in foundation are all either Evanston or Wyoming-based companies. So we're going to continue to provide that focus. But as we obviously are excited, we're under construction. In terms of the timeline, what we saw in Cheyenne was roughly took us about a year from when we put shovel in the ground and when we opened. So we think we'll have a similar experience here. We're starting end of September, beginning of October. We think we'll have an opening here, subject to weather, sometime in the 4th quarter of next year. At least that's what our contractor is. We're actually targeting September 1, but I would not want to quote that. It's probably going to be 4th quarter. We had 40 days of rain in Cheyenne. We could not finish the foundation work. We had, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks of snow delay. Stuff happens. So we think a year is probably a fair estimate for us. So we're committed. The ball is rolling here in Evanston, and we're very much excited. But as I said, you know, one of the things that we started thinking about with the success we've seen in Swan Ranch with the Colorado market, we're kind of expecting that here as well. And so we've started to talk about internally what's next. If the Evanston project grabs hold like the Cheyenne project, what should we be thinking about? So we started to work through, I'll say, preliminary plans for an expansion. And if I could ask my Vanna White to help me here.
Far from it.
Thank you.
You're not Vanna, I can tell you that.
A little bit more hair, you'd be all right.
Hope that's not offensive, but yeah. Wow.
Thank you.
So what could an expansion look like if we were wildly successful here like we think we will be? What would that next step for us look like? So we kind of had a brainstorming session and kind of worked through this with our architect, and understand this is not vetted by planning. We'd have to go through the same site planning process and so on and so forth, but we think this is some reasonable expectation of what we think could happen. Obviously, it would be tweaked, but what we're trying to do is get a little bit ahead of the process. As you can see, we were here in October 2023. This facility isn't going to open until October 2025. It's 2 years. So we started thinking about how can we get ahead of ourselves here. And our thought was, well, we probably need to get information in front of the Gaming Commission this fall to get their approval on this process, so we could really started digging in and doing some more detailed planning and honestly spending money with architects and engineers and things like that. So if the Evanston project opens and it's a success, we do not have to start from ground zero. We can immediately be moving in the right direction. So what that package would look like is something similar to what we did in October of last year, which was our package included a letter of support from the city of Evanston, a county resolution that essentially said, hey, we understand what this project's about and we're in agreement with it, and an independent economic impact study, plus a number of other technical things, which we've already done. I was lucky enough to get in front of the Uinta County Commissioners this afternoon. I would have preferred to talk to you first, but just the timing of the meetings didn't work out that way. They were very supportive of what this is, and we're going to be presenting a resolution for their approval at their next meeting, which is the 15th of October. So that would be one of the pieces of the puzzle that we need to do. So really what I'm trying to do today is to talk through this with you, give you a sense of why we're coming so early in the process. The other reason that we're considering this now is that there's a number of things going on in the state. One is the legislative dynamics are changing. You've got a whole new crop of legislators coming into Cheyenne. A lot of them, or most of them, will have had no experience with historical horse racing, why it was here, what the purpose is, et cetera. The Appropriations Committee has had a lot of discussion this year about, are we growing too fast? Are we growing too slow? What's going on? And all the related dynamics. And then the Gaming Commission has instituted a gaming study to ask those similar questions. What's the right thing for Wyoming to be doing as we move forward? How do they manage the growth? Is there the right infrastructure in place for them to be able to manage it? And are there any rules and regulations that need to change to help them manage the growth? So that study is going to be completed this fall and be presented to the Appropriations Committee before year end. And I suspect some legislation may come out of that. And there's also going to be some changes in the Gaming Commission leadership. It's public knowledge, and the executive director in the meetings has stated he's retiring. So there will be a new executive director at some point in the Gaming Commission. Some of the discussions that have been happening in the legislature have been some concern about growth of the HHR terminals, and honestly skill-based gaming as well, inside the state of Wyoming. In other words, is this happening too fast? Is there saturation, et cetera? And we always believe as a company that there would come a point when that becomes a problem, and that's why we chose to say, let's build border touristic properties that don't reach into the state of Wyoming, but actually reach out and bring tourism dollars in. So our model is very different than most of the other operators. Yes, we have locations in the state, but our primary focus for growth has been building these touristic projects. So we're hoping to make that distinction with the legislature as we go forward. But look, we can't predict what happens. What our concern would be is, are there limitations imposed unilaterally with no distinction for the border projects? Then that would prevent us from being able to potentially meet demand, if you will, like we're seeing in Cheyenne and we expect to see here. So candidly, that's part of the reason we're trying to get this in front of the Gaming Commission sooner rather than later, is we want to have a discussion at that level, because ultimately they need to approve the process and the number of units that we're looking to do. So the goal really is to start that process, as I said, and that's a number of items that we need to have, and you're I'll say, support is one of those items. So that's really why I'm here way in advance. And honestly, I know it's a little bizarre. We're not even open here yet. We're already talking about what's next. But I think as we've thought about this and heard from experts and also now see the real success in Cheyenne, we said we need to think about this in Evanston now and not wait. So that's really why we're trying to get through this a little bit quicker, because candidly, we get approval in November. We see the success here the following November. We want to be in a position to almost immediately come back to you all to say, okay, we're seeing some great, 4 or 5 months after we open, we're going to probably come back and say, okay, we'd like to move on and start to work with the city on the details on these things. And having the Gaming Commission approval allows us to do those things. So I'll stop talking and see if there's any questions, and I apologize.
Thanks for the info.
So
Any
either on
questions?
the current project or the master plan, I'm happy to talk about either.
Any questions?
No, I've seen, there's a YouTube video of your Swan Ranch. Beautiful, beautiful facility. If you actually just go on their website and it's got the video. You're in it, but it's a beautiful facility and they've done a really nice job.
And that's a level of finish and quality. Essentially, we want to try to replicate that here. And we've learned a lot in that project. I'm not going to kid you. I mean, certain things we tweaked and we have tweaked in the initial building here is, we made the bar probably too big in Cheyenne, so we also had something that we added here, which is a recessed stage behind the bar that's proved to be really successful with the locals. We're specifically, targeting local entertainment that people know, country music, and it's people line up at the bar and they just love it. We have an area for dancing. It's crazy. I mean, it's not a big stage. Maybe you can fit 5 or 6 musicians up there. But it's big enough. So we've modified this already, the initial building, to include that.
Fantastic.
I love Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and my kid loves the donuts, so I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
That's huge.
It's an interesting story, because when we first started Cheyenne, we browbeated them into letting us do a Dunkin' in that location. And at that time, they said, we're not servicing Wyoming, just not enough people. We said, well, there's Colorado, and we're like 4 miles away from Colorado. So they went back and talked, and they came back and said, okay. And I said, oh, by the way, we're doing something in Evanston, right on the border of Utah, so I am going to be coming back to you for that one, too. And so you'll laugh. The first day we opened the Dunkin', we sold 100 dozen donuts, so 1,200 donuts. We've been averaging about 50 dozen donuts, so roughly, 600 donuts a day. It's crazy. So I'm really pleased to report about a month ago, I actually got the official approval from Dunkin'. They actually issue a store number. So I have the store number for this project already. So we're ready. It's built it into the drawings. We added the square footage to accommodate the back of house proprietary equipment, front of house counters. It looks like you're just walking in any other Dunkin' when you walk into our place in Cheyenne. It's bizarre. The same colors, the same tile. They have very specific requirements, and we're happy to meet them. So it's kind of a fun amenity.
I'm excited.
And, much like this expansion, we're adding 2 additional restaurants, a theater, because we think there's some potential for entertainment, as well as a 200-room hotel. We are undertaking a whole hotel study in Cheyenne, and we've already gotten the preliminary results that say that property could potentially support a 300-room or bigger hotel. And we're going to present that to our board. Hopefully none of them are going to hear this in about a week or two, and request the money to do that. And as I told the county, we've already got the funding secured for the expansion, this master plan, if indeed the demand is here, which we think it will be. So our board's been very, very big supporters of us continuing to invest in Cheyenne. And I should just quickly talk about the expansion. As you can see, it's almost tripling the size. We're going from, we're opening, call it 26,000. This addition would be another 50,000 square feet. So we're talking about potentially investing another $80 million in terms of construction and all the related things that go with that. We'd be looking to hire an additional 300 team members, so we'd have a total of 400 on site at the facility. And the tax revenue would jump from $1 million incrementally, another $2.2 million, we think. So the city would roughly see, over $3 million a year from our facility, direct payment. And then I know you do the share. I think you have a share arrangement with the county. They would get a similar amount as well. So, the economics make sense to us to do the expansion. What we're trying to do is get in front of the approval process and just get a head start. So the support letter would help us in that endeavor.
It sounds to me like time is a little bit of the essence. I wonder, can we act on that letter? And we're looking just at a letter, or do we need to consider a resolution as well? Mr. Harris, you?
Mr. Mayor, I discussed this with you preliminarily, and then Mr. Liguori, when he got here this evening, he indicated that the county commissioners will be considering a similar support on the 15th. Mm-hmm. And I think that would fit his timeline. I think we should do the same resolution together, so the full council can see it, authorize a letter of support, and then you could vote on it and discuss it
at the same time.
2 weeks. If that sounds good, that would be my
that would
sounds
be
good to me.
Perfect.
That works
and
for
our
you?
economic study, I think, is done that same week. So the goal would be then to send the package into the commission to get on the agenda for Evanston for the November meeting of the Gaming Commission.
Excellent. Let's plan on that then.
Sounds good to me.
It's good. Thank you for coming.
And again, I'm happy to come back periodically to continue to give you updates on the initial project. I know a year's a long time to wait, but you'll definitely be seeing a lot of things going on up there. But nevertheless, I can certainly keep everyone posted on our progress, and happy to do so.
I'm just glad to see you moving dirt, so I know you're serious about it.
We are happy to see that too, trust me. So,
sounds great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Comments from departments? Way back there. Mr. Newsom, do you have anything for us tonight? Nothing tonight. Oh, we'll get there.
I just wanted to mention,
Hang on one second. Rick, we'll get there. The public comment, is that what you're wanting to do?
I wanted to compliment these guys.
Okay. Go ahead.
I wanted you to know that these gentlemen donated to the city's 4420 $10,000 for the reclamation of the 4420.
Oh, nice. Mr. Robinson, do you have anything?
It's been a tragic, shocking, and somber day for us at Public Works, where we've lost one of our employees and his wife at their home. I just wanted to publicly address and let their family know that we love them and we appreciate them, and that we support them in their time of loss, and thank you for your comments and condolences as well for him and his family today.
Thank you. Thank you. Chief Ranish, you have anything for us tonight?
No, sir.
Ms. Lim?
No, sir.
Marcy? Mr. O'Neill?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Ms. Harris?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Harris?
I do have a report, Mr. Mayor, regarding the Pacific Soda industrial siding permit application. We have talked about that, at least in staffing, I know we have. Last Friday, Lincoln, Uena, and Sweetwater counties and the municipalities in those counties got together and submitted and agreed to a memorandum of understanding for the impact assistance for that for the Pacific Soda Dry Creek project. The total available funds were $34 million in impact assistance. Sweetwater County is going to have approximately $30 million of those funds, because the analysis indicated the greatest impact for the area of impact was Sweetwater County. Under the memorandum of understanding, the city of Evanston will be receiving $836,000 for that project. I'm just letting you know that we will bring you a resolution in 2 weeks, like we did with the Soda West project, authorizing and ratifying the MOU. It is due to be submitted to the Industrial Siting Council this Friday. So I'm just giving you the heads up that that's been done.
Okay. Thank you.
We don't get more than that? They're going to give that all to Sweetwater?
Pardon?
So they're going to give that all to Sweetwater? We don't get a bigger cut of that?
Well, Lincoln County and Uintah County were kind of looking at in one instance of it was started out at zero, because Pacific Soda said Sweetwater is the only impacted area, and Sweetwater took a little bit of a haircut. Lincoln County took a big haircut, and we took a little bit of a haircut.
So do we need to act on that?
Well, in 2 weeks, Mayor.
But you said this has to be by November, or into this week? Do we need to sign?
We're going to have you sign this and then have that ratified in 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's
Sounds
why I'm
good.
just giving you that.
And as far as the 830, Ms. Lind, I would say that it seems like a low amount compared to what Sweetwater County, but I would say that I think our turn is coming with the Terra Power project. I think
that is correct.
Will increase a little bit.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Public participation. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to address the council for any reason? Mr. Horn, please.
Shelley Horn, 31 Park Road, Evanston. Can you hear me now? I wanted to second what Rick said about these fine gentlemen from the Wyoming horse racing. These people really come into a community and want to belong to it. The Historic Preservation Commission hosted them this morning to thank them for their donation toward the 4420 restoration, and let them look at the engine, talk to the people that were working on it, and see just exactly what it is we're doing and why their donation was so important to us. I just would like to thank them again. I'm a little reluctant to go on from this point, but you stirred me up. I have to support what the young lady said about having some transparency. I know that Mr. Harris and the city does exactly what it has to do to advertise these things, but my goodness, what a wonderful thing it would be to go beyond what you have to do and explain to the public some of the things that are more specific that they can relate to. It's hard to relate to a meets and bounds description of a piece of property. I'm just as unhappy with it as she is, but you really need to take a little extra effort and put yourself into it and let people know what you're really talking about. Next thing I want to say is, reluctantly, I've heard the cabins described tonight as a blighted area. I heard one of the council people say that it couldn't be made to look any worse. And I'd like to ask you, who owns that property? And shouldn't the shame fall upon the city for allowing that property to run down in the condition that it is, that you so aptly describe as blighted? It's your property. is your responsibility to the city, to the citizens, to take care of property you own. Now, I have no objection to the lease or sale of this property, but my goodness, I just, in hindsight, I don't think you've treated it right. The other thing I don't know is, where are you going to stack your snow now?
We'll have to figure that out.
Don't get the cart before the horse. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, one of the things that happened this morning is Fox Channel 13, Utah, was down at 4420 and talking to the men that work on it and doing the story, so you might want to check out Channel 13 on your computer or on your TV if you get it. They also filmed these two gentlemen giving us the donation for 4420. So Channel 13 is pretty interested in Evanston, and they're going to come back. And we've asked them to come several times for HPC, but they are spreading out into Evanston. Cheyenne thinks we're part of Utah anyway, so it's nice to have Utah pay attention to it. So I encourage you to take a look at the filming that they did this morning, and Steve Ewing gave them a whole lot of information about the 4420 and the roundhouse. So please take a look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If that is it, we will adjourn. Thank you.